You've probably heard the quote, "We are, at the end of the day, the sum of all of our choices." That's the leading quote for this episode, though. I want to elaborate a little bit further on that. I don't think that's exactly true. Or at least it leaves a lot of stuff out of context. Um, Let me put it into perspective as if you're a domino. Everyone's a domino. You know, whether we fall or stay stood up, we're all in a line. And if a domino falls, no matter where it is, whether it's ahead of you or behind you, how it falls or when it falls, it eventually falls onto you. Sometimes longer or sooner than you expect. It's a bit of the unpredictability. If that person chooses to fall or not, they don't really get to choose where they fall. And that choice always finds a way to come back to us. The unpredictability of choice and chance. We've talked about that a lot on this podcast. I think is probably one of the biggest concepts of living your life that can really do a lot more harm than good if you fail to understand it. That's kind of where it lies. The problem with progress is you and me. A failure to understand that can be very catastrophic. We are on episode 20, the last episode of the season. And today we're going to be talking about one album, one manhwa, and one song. This has been a script that was intended to be one of the first episodes. However, I realized very soon into the rough drafting of it, it was a lot more complex than I had intended it to be. And in a sense, it would fit so thematically if it was also the last episode. In case you haven't caught on to what the ongoing theme for all these episodes are, it has to do with sunscreen. That is the very first song we've talked about on this podcast. Not like the stuff from episode 1. That was like an intro episode that didn't really have a theme. It was just like, hey, this is me, this is what I'm doing, this is what you can expect. And even then, it's changed so much since that first episode. But in episode 2, where we talked about Scott Pilgrim and everybody wears sunscreen, it is so vastly different to what it is now. Every episode, almost every episode, not every episode, has been loosely related to a piece of advice or lyric or line from that song. For example, last week's episode, we talked about My American Dream. There's that one running line, a glass of water in a magazine. There's a line in sunscreen about don't read magazines. Sometimes they're more thematic with the piece of advice from that song. Sometimes it's just a word ripped straight out of that, and that's the closest thing I could get to a continuity. But we are now at the final iteration of this grand scheme. The album we're talking about is The Free Life by Turbo Wolf. They're a band from the UK, psychedelic metal, post-punk, whatever you want to call them. They are their own sound. The manhwa we're talking about is The Boxer. It's one I've wanted to talk about for a long time. It's one of my favorite series. I've talked about a lot of boxing on this show. It's my favorite sport. It's my favorite thing to read. I love boxing. It's great. And then the song that we'll close off with today is Ghost Stories by the Narcissist Cookbook. Another Narcissist Cookbook. We did a song, an album, and another whatever, and a dedicated Bug Hunter episode. So it's only fair we do a song, an album, and a dedicated Narcissist Cookbook stuff. 3 and 3. It's the rule of 3, as they say. But what is today's theme? What is today's goal? I want to talk to you a little about choices. It is not about choices today, but coming to understand truly the impact it could have. I'm gonna be talking a lot of like, as my friends from the South would say, hippy dippy stuff. That spiritual nonsense. Talking like a lot of 4D stuff. But if you listen to any of this and like you actually go out of your way to sit down to listen to the albums and such, trust me, it makes a lot more sense. Which is what I hope you're doing if you're watching this through YouTube or Spotify. But we're gonna get started here in a sec. Remix Audio Bar 222 North Guadalupe Street. Every Friday we quote start at 10 a.m. unquote is the pipe dream. We usually start late, but these episodes are recorded every Friday morning. 10 a.m. is when we're supposed to start. 6 to 10 we have dinner services. I say we as if I work here. I don't. I just sit in the stool and look pretty. But ramen bowl, chicken yakitori, rice onigiri, vegan options as well, dozens of pastries and desserts from 6 to 10 throughout the whole day. Wednesday to Saturday is their days of operation. And last but not least, Kicks Cafe, 7 to 10 every Wednesday. I run an open mic. If you want to share your stuff, please come swing by. I bartend there every week. So come vibe, come chill, order a beer or a coffee, or just sit down and share the world your creations, your arts, all that. We're going to start off with the first track of the album, No, 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 which opens up with All For You, but Not For You, the free life. And immediately you can get a sense of the idea of what this album's going for. It's the free life. It's free will. It's what, it's what everyone really wants, whether it's your American dream, your nirvana, your success. It's what you imagine. And then music starts playing, opens up with Snake Eyes rattling. You're going to hear a lot of stuff like that. I've always talked a lot about how choice is 50%, chance, and it's 50% your choices. Choices that lead to chances to make more choices. It's really weird to think about, but you only really need to get a gist of it. The song opens up with, in the chorus, well, actually, not opens up, but it gets to the chorus pretty fast. As I said earlier, the problem with progress is you and me. What do I mean by that? What do they mean by that? Ultimately, what I garnered from this song was this is kind of the basis of learning how to make choices or guiding yourself to make choices. What does that have to do with living life, doing whatever, interacting with the world? Well, that's where our little buddy you comes in, from the boxer. We're going to be jumping back and forth between these two, the album and the character, for a little bit. You is a child with no parents, no nothing in his life. He is quite literally an empty husk. If you point him to go somewhere, he goes without hesitation. You ask him to jump, he doesn't ask how high, he just jumps. If you punch him, he just takes the punch. He doesn't do anything. He is purely driven by the choices of others. And that is not until he gets taken up to enter the boxing world. Now, we're going to cut to the chase here with you. He becomes the strongest boxer in history in this little world of boxing. But it's not in a good way. People view him as a monster. They view him as a crazed killer because he's so ruthless. He's brutal. He's emotionless, cold, and clean with all of his fights. There is no... It starts out as a series where he gets to his first champion belt, where it's a bit back and forth. But as we get more and more and more into the weight divisions, he just becomes more efficient, more ruthless, more monstrous. And everyone thinks he's such an evil person. And I think that's a cruel way to view someone you don't even know. I think we can only decipher so much about a person from not just words, but actions. Action speaks louder than words. I think that's a little dumb. Sometimes words speaking your words is an action. I mean, that's the loudest action you can do. But what I'm getting at here is they don't know anything. I don't know what you don't know. They don't know that you doesn't know any better. That he has no will to do anything, and he is just doing everything that he is told to do by his trainer, Kay, who is the antagonist of our series. And I think it's that decision that most of the cast comes to decide that use a monster, an evil man, the villain of our series, is that lack of understanding, that lack of acknowledging every single factor there is. There's the next track we're going to be talking about is Cheap Magic. It's a very simple song. It's the impact of truths and lies, where it kind of frames someone who tells a lie as casting a spell, a deception spell. Woo! Roll me skill check, please. Uh, Lying to people is a choice. And like I said, with the domino effect, that can impact so many people. Kay lies to you, promising him that this path of becoming ruthless, the most efficient, brutal boxer in the world, will help him bring out what he wants, which is to feel emotion, enjoy life, see what the world really is for. And he can only see that by destroying every single person that he says stands in Yu's way. Utter lie. He doesn't want that for you. What Kay wants is Kay is a world champion trainer. He is trained every boxer he's trained has gone on to be some of the greatest boxers in history. And what he does every time is every boxer he trains to be better than the last. And pitting them against each other and such with his brutal methods of training, marketing, and just burning all bridges. He lies to you, and you just believes it because he doesn't know any better. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't have any free will of his own. He's living someone else's life at their whim, essentially. If I was to put it into perspective, it's a line from the song, actually, which is remove our blindfolds and see through the illusions. You is essentially blindfolded throughout this entire series. And it's not until people finally start reaching out to him. He's can't fully remove it yet, but he's finally starting to peek under the blindfold, lift it a little, see a little bit more of the world around him. And who keeps tugging it back over his eyes and tightening it? It's Kay. It's his trainer. It's the big bad, the very bad guy, which is the next track in the album. So very bad, not so very. It's just very bad. Sorry. Bleh. Very bad goes over this idea of the pursuit of knowledge, and if you've ever sat down for a single science class and you're over the age of 7, you understand that the number one thing about science when there's a subject, the best way to understand it is to learn more about it. You acquire knowledge. Knowledge gives you a better depth of understanding whatever subject you're learning towards. Little science lessons for if you're a preschooler. Congratulations. But it puts into perspective this knowledge isn't a lock, it's a key. And you're open up the same lock with all these different keys to come to this penultimate idea of understanding. But that sounds like an online guru thing to say, but I wholeheartedly agree with that concept. I think that is very true. To make any choices, you need to understand the weight of your decision, the impact it will have. What do I mean by the impact of choices and such? Domino effect. Dominoes. I love dominoes. Anyone here play dominoes? But that's actually the next track in the song, which is it talks about how we're all dominoes. We're set up together. We fall together. And what is the best way to find that pursuit of knowledge? What is the best way to learn? It's through others, interacting with others, learning from others. There's only so much we can accomplish by ourselves. There's only so much not you, the character, can do by himself. Because we get a bit later into the series where he's much older. He's like already got a few belts under him, and he meets this lady Carmen, who slowly but surely brings out the emotions in him. She's the manager for the gym he works out at, and she also has the same perspective that everyone else has. It's like he's a monster, he's cruel, he's evil. Until Kay asks him to deliver something. I can't remember how they end up interacting in the first place. But she finds out Yu has a cat, a little old cat that he takes care of. And he's so gentle with it. He's so caring for it. He appreciates this little creature so much. And it's at that moment something unlocks. A little moment of Sonder. And she realizes he is nothing like what everyone says he is. And so through that, she makes the decision to better understand him. And then she learns more about him and what Kay's doing to him. And does everything she can to make him feel something. To just live life the way he wants to. She's not able to do that. Because Kay gets wind of this and essentially kidnaps her. She gets kidnapped. And then Kay goes on to keep sending him into more matches, keep winning, fighting, and you just 180s even deeper back into just that darkness, that emptiness, that loneliness, isolation. And it becomes even worse. And it's getting to the point where he might actually become the monster everyone thinks he is. We all together grow, and separated we don't. That's the way it goes. That is Kay's ultimate goal with you, is to keep him away from everyone so he doesn't grow. If he's the only one interacting with you, always within arm's reach of him, he can turn him into the monster he wants him to be. And that almost happens. Until the hero of our story, Jay, arrives. You're kind of starting to get the theme where all the important characters are like one letter. Well, U is YU, K is just K, and J is just J. But it's a funny little naming scheme I like in the story. Jay is the first character we are introduced into the series, and he only appears at the very beginning and the very end of the series, where Yu is outside alone and abandoned, sitting under a light post, staring at the stars, but he's only looking in between those stars, not at the shining lights up there. Until this boxer comes by and talks to him a little bit. And he goes, "I hope to see you in the boxing ring one day." And he's never seen again. So when you is approached by a trainer to be like, "Do you want to become a boxer?" It's that little interaction, that little choice Jay made, where he's like, "I'll see you in the ring." And we find out that you became a boxer to one day meet him. I told you he had no free will. I lied to you. That's what the story does to you as well. It lies to you. He did have one sole goal this entire time, and he wanted to meet with Jay. And so, Jay swoops in. They get into the boxing match. The greatest boxer in history versus the greatest boxer of today. Please don't make a JJK reference out of that. But, and it's the ultimate, like, the story portrays it as the fight of the century, the fight of a lifetime. Two of the greatest boxers to ever exist are going at it. And we get to the match. It goes for all these rounds. And the entire time, Jay does not throw a single punch. He's getting slaughtered. He's getting beaten up. He's bleeding everywhere. He's getting bones broken in the ring. And he doesn't ever fight back against you. He does nothing. And this drives Kay insane. Because he wants a close fight. He wants Jay to give it his all to show that he turned you into the perfect monster to beat the very best boxer that ever lived. And that doesn't happen. Remember when I said when a domino falls ahead of you, sooner or later it does come back to you. Where he creaked open the door for you to find a path to be happy or do something. And now that domino finally comes back and falls onto you. Where Jay finally throws one single punch and it connects. And that little punch it's not even a punch. He just takes his glove and taps him on the chin. And then we get this gorgeous, beautiful sequence of just you coming to realize, boom, the beauty of everything. Jay showed a bit of kindness, love, or whatever you want to interpret it as. But he showed something incredible to you. And after that, he just takes off his gloves and he leaves the arena. Jay, he didn't win the match, but he's like, I lost the match, but I won something better. And then after that, he gets his belt. Kay's furious, but he's like, "Oh, we got the belt regardless." And after that, Yu's just, "No, I'm done with this. I'm done being a boxer. I'm done with fighting people." And he goes on to live the rest of his life. It's nice. It's gorgeous. Everything's like a domino. That's why I've been so pounding in with the domino effect here. Whether we know it or not, our decisions impact so many people around us. Whether it's something simple or something small, you'd be surprised how many years later it could come back to fall on you, whether it's a good or bad thing. And we don't really get to decide that. It's kind of the whole idea with the free life, which is the namesake track we're discussing next. It's the whole idea that free will, free life, it's all an illusion. When we want things, we can't get it, and if we try to resist something, we can't. It's the magic of our hearts, the science in our brains, and whatever is everything in between. It talks a lot about how it is instinct, like we talked about earlier with very bad. I think it is human instinct to want to garner understanding, to pursue good in your life, to do good in your life, to want what's best and achieve what's best. And a catalyst of free will is we have the amazing ability to make choices. And that's why I'm very it's this episode is not about decision making. It's not about the choices you make. It's about understanding your actions and the potential that they have, and if you choose to do those actions or not. Now, what if you're someone that's like, "Oh, what if I choose to do nothing, Dalen?" Oh, it's like, no, that's a decision. If you inaction is an action. But there's this one chorus that ends off before we get into the big finale of the song, which goes, "I try not to forget. I can't remember this. While I tried, never ever try." I can't believe what I wrote in here. While I never ever try not to regret, I can't ever resist. And so I always remember that these wonders exist. You're just like us now. Stop looking away and just do it. I think that is probably the best advice you can get, where you're you're never ever going to fully understand something. You're never ever going to know every single consequence or result of your choices. So the best thing you can do is just do it. Just go for it. I've talked a lot about just if there's something, you go for it. If it's truly what your heart wants and your brain thinks is right, just do it. Sounding like Shia LaBeouf here, but I don't think I can give you a more straightforward truth. There's no like deep diving into it. It's pretty shallow in nature. You just go do it. You just make a decision, or you just decide to do nothing. Do something. Don't just wallow and let other people decide to do something for you. Don't let other people control who they want you to be. Don't do what you does. He was lucky that there were at least two people that were able to reach out to him, see something deeper in him, what he truly wanted. But he isolated himself. He was a lone domino that could never ever fall. It was constantly always standing, nothing happening, no decisions ever made, no interaction. He was truly, truly alone. And he was so lucky that a domino fell on him, because that set him into motion to finding about the human emotional spectrum. It's only with when we come together and interact with people or have these dominoes falling, we can gain some semblance of what the free life really is, or what we want it to be. There's one more song I want to talk about, which is Ghost Stories. I said that earlier. Narcissist Cookbook song. It's from the Eden Disorder EP. It's the first thing on his Spotify. It's not some of the first music he's ever made, but that doesn't matter. Ghost Stories acts as sort of a confessional. Narcissist Cookbooks talks about how he acted and when he was 23, whether this is true or not. An allegory he uses is that I really like is he treats relationships like ice cream. He just keeps eating ice cream, and ice cream until he gets all sick and he feels bad about it and throws up and just puts it all away, runs away from it. If he can't enjoy it fully, then he doesn't want to enjoy it at all. He doesn't want to take the bad part of eating so much ice cream, as ice cream is good, like chocolate. But he's talking about a lot of relationships he's had where he tries so hard to fix people. And if he can't, then he freaks out and runs away. The song opens up with his partner at the uh, that's talking to him being like, why do you love me? And he goes, there's no why to why I love you. I love you because I have to. And then he proceeds to elaborate on it. And he talks about this little saying that was told to him by her, the last or partner he's talking to, where it's everyone is like a ghost story. You know, like Santa Fe here has a few haunted apartments or rooms, and you go there, and if you go there or rent out that room or whatever, you go there because you know there's something wrong with it, but that's what makes it cool. That's what makes it awesome. It's like, oh, it's a haunted room. I can't wait to fall asleep and maybe die and not wake up the next morning. You know, that's the cool part about it. That's the thrill of it. You know, you don't go to a place with ghost stories, Ghostbusters the place up, and you're like, oh man, that was so awesome. That was so good. That's boring. That's boring. You're boring if you do that. But everyone's like a ghost story because there is something so mystical about everyone, which is usually a problem. But sometimes those problems is what makes us so amazing, so mystical, so mysterious, so cool. And more often than not, fixing that could make more problems than it does solve. And that's a reality Narcissist Cookbook has to come to, where he realizes there are just some things he can't fix about people. And he realizes there are just some things that don't need to be fixed. Not every problem needs a hammer. Sometimes life is better if you don't do anything. Inaction is an action. If you do nothing, in a way, doing nothing is showing a way of appreciation for what something is. There's no need to fix it, help it. The way it is already great. And that's what I love about this song. It's one of my favorite songs from Narcissist Cookbook. It's one of my favorite songs of all times. Because with my little ADHD brain, I always see that if there's a problem, it needs to be fixed. And it needs to happen now. It needs to happen sooner than later. That's just not how people work. You know? It took you all of his life, from childhood, throughout high school, his young adult life, to his very end of his boxing career, to fix his problem. And that was something that needed fixing. But sometimes there are some things that don't need fixing, which this song goes against the entire theme of the boxer. But I think that's okay, because there's always two sides to a story. The recommendation I'm going to leave us off on is the first album I've ever listened to. And it is Solar Satisfaction by Manganas Garden, which is, I think, ironically and quite coincidentally, a very fitting album, which is an album I would always, on summer days when I would go for a run, whenever I take a little break, sit down on a bench, I would play this album. It's like 30 minutes. Listen to half of it and then listen to the rest of it as I resume my run. And I would really just appreciate everything. And this was back in a point of my life where I literally hated everything. Everything sucked. I was really angsty and hormonal. Hormones like make you hate everything, you know? But it's kind of amazing that despite all like the awful stuff that was going on in my life at that point, I was still able to find ways to appreciate it, to appreciate the world around me and the people I had in my life at that moment. It's nice. I was about to say there next week's episode, but there is no next week's episode. This is the last episode. There is going to be a wrap-up episode, but that doesn't really matter. You can tune into that if you want to or not. You could show up if you want to or not. But to everyone who's made the decision to watch these episodes, interact with them, thank you. It means a lot to me. And I really never thought we would get here. But that's just how the dominoes fell. So I hope you all have a good rest of your life. Thank you.